Welcome back to the Observable Unknown. Every human being enters the world carrying something, not physically, historically. Before you speak, language is waiting. Before you believe, stories are waiting. Before you choose, assumptions are established. Before you understand yourself, entire systems of meaning have already begun shaping the conditions under which understanding can become possible. Modern culture places enormous emphasis on individuality. We celebrate independence, self-determination, personal choice, self-creation. These things matter, yet there's a danger hidden inside them. They can tempt us into forgetting how much arrived before we did. Nobody invents themselves from nothing. No one begins at zero. Nobody enters an empty world. You inherit a language, customs, symbols, categories, fears, responsibilities, and limitations. The inheritance begins long before your awareness. At the University of Heidelberg, Egyptologist and cultural theorist Jan Assmann spent decades studying cultural memory and civilizational continuity. His work revealed something profoundly important, that human beings remember collectively, not merely individually. Much of what we call identity is actually participation in memory. A civilization remembers through stories, a culture remembers through rituals, a people remember through their language, and a family remembers through its habits. The individual inherits these memories, whether they recognize them or not. This means that many of the thoughts we consider entirely our own arrived through pathways we never created. The words we use, the values we defend, distinctions we consider obvious, and futures we imagine, all emerge from systems already in motion. At Queen's University in Canada, cognitive scientist Merlin approached a similar question from a different direction. Donald spent years examining the evolution of human consciousness and culture. His work challenged the notion that intelligence resides solely within individual brains. Instead, human cognition extends outward into symbols, language, tools, writing, institutions, and shared memory. Human beings don't merely think inside their heads, they think through cultures, through archives and traditions, through relationships. The mind isn't sealed, it participates. This may be one of the most overlooked realities of human life. Most people believe they're navigating reality directly. In truth, they're navigating inherited maps. Some maps are useful, some are outdated, some contain wisdom, and others contain distortion. Yet all of them arrive before the traveler. And because the inheritance feels normal, it becomes invisible. A person raised inside one culture sees certain behaviors as obvious. A person raised elsewhere sees something entirely different. Neither notices the inheritance at first. Both assume they're seeing reality itself. This is one reason inherited assumptions can become so powerful. The things we consciously choose often receive scrutiny. The bias we inherit frequently escapes examination. This is where inheritance becomes very interesting. Inheritance isn't destiny, it's context. The stories you receive aren't the stories you must continue. The beliefs you inherit aren't the beliefs you have to preserve. The fears that you inherit aren't the fears that you have to obey. Yet meaningful choice becomes possible only after inheritance becomes visible. Many people spend years attempting to change their lives without understanding the systems that produce the lives they currently inhabit. They focus on their own decisions. The deeper structure remains untouched. They attempt new behaviors. Old assumptions continue operating. They might pursue alternative futures. Inherited maps continue directing movement. Real transformation often begins with recognition, not what do I want, but what have I received? Because what's been inherited silently shapes what appears imaginable. This observation sits very near the center of something I've been exploring recently through what I call a relational topology of consciousness. The idea is deceptively simple. Human beings don't emerge as isolated minds who later enter relationships. We emerge through relationships, through language, family, culture, history, inherited worlds already in motion. The self isn't merely an individual achievement, it's also a relational inheritance. And once you begin seeing that, many questions start looking very different. Identity looks different, responsibility looks different, freedom looks different. Even consciousness consciousness itself begins looking different. Perhaps this is why self-understanding requires more than introspection. It requires archaeology, the careful excavation of stories, assumptions, values, and meanings that arrived before we did. Not to reject them automatically, not to preserve them automatically, but to see them clearly. You begin life inside a story you didn't write. Maturity may begin when you finally learn to read it. If this interlude caused you to reconsider what's shaped you before your first conscious choice, make that known. Leave a rating or a review, not for recognition but for signal. So awareness reaches places where inheritance has remained invisible for far too long. Until next time, remember, you don't become what you feel, you become what you return to. And what you return to returns as you.